You walk into the living room. There's a smell that shouldn't be there, a suspicious gap where a couch cushion used to have stuffing, and a dog sitting 3 feet away, already doing the look. Head down, eyes up, tail going like a nervous metronome. You know that look. Every dog owner on earth knows that look. It's the universal symbol of a guilty conscience on 4 legs. But here's a question that's quietly upended decades of assumptions about dogs. What if that look isn't guilt at all? What if your dog has simply learned how to read your face well enough to perform an emotion he doesn't actually feel, purely because it gets him out of trouble faster? And once you start pulling on that thread, the real answer turns out to be stranger and more impressive than dogs feel bad. It's less a story about guilt and a lot more a story about exactly how much your dog has figured out about what you can and can't see, what you do and don't know, and how to use that information against you. Politely, lovingly, but against you. Scientists actually draw a hard line here. There's reflexive deception, behavior that looks manipulative but is really just a trained or fearful reaction. No real understanding required. And then there's tactical deception, deliberately creating a false belief in another mind because you understand that mind has beliefs in the first place. For most of the 20th century, researchers assumed dogs were only capable of the first kind. That assumption did not survive contact with the data. Let's start by demolishing the one piece of evidence everyone already has. In 2009, comparative psychologist Alexander Horowitz ran a sneaky little experiment. She told owners to forbid their dog from eating a treat, then leave the room. When they came back, owners were told to greet the dog warmly if it behaved, or scolded if it didn't. Except sometimes Horowitz lied to the owners about what actually happened. Some good dogs got scolded anyway. Some dogs who'd eaten the treat got greeted warmly. The result, the guilty look had nothing to do with whether the dog had actually misbehaved. It showed up exactly as often whether the dog was innocent or not. What triggered it every time was the owner's scolding tone. The dogs weren't confessing. They were reacting to you in real time with a fear response dressed up to look like remorse. In other words, the most famous piece of dog lying most people have ever seen isn't a lie at all. It's something almost the opposite, an honest, automatic signal of fear that we've been misreading as a confession for a century. So if that's not lying, what is? Here's where it gets genuinely strange. In 2013, researcher Julianne Kaminski told dogs not to take a piece of food, then varied the lighting in the room. In a fully lit room, most dogs obeyed. In a dark room, dogs were 4 times more likely to steal the food. Read that again. The dog wasn't reacting to whether it could see the food differently in the dark. It could see it fine either way. What changed was whether the human could see. The dogs were tracking somebody else's visual access to the world and using that to decide when breaking a rule was survivable. That's not a trained behavior. That's an early, working theory of what another mind can and can't perceive. It goes further. In 2017, Marion Heberlein at the University of Zurich ran an experiment that should make every dog owner slightly nervous. Dogs learned that one stranger always shared treats with them, and another stranger always kept the treats for themselves. Then dogs were given the job of showing each stranger where a hidden treat was. By the second day, the dogs weren't just leading the generous stranger to the good treat. They were actively leading the selfish stranger to an empty box, deliberately misleading a specific person, based on that person's track record, to protect a resource for themselves later. And here's the detail researchers couldn't stop talking about. Dogs figured this out almost immediately. Primates given similar tests in other studies sometimes need over 100 trials to learn the same trick. Dogs needed one bad experience and a memory. Push it one step further, and you get to what researchers call the knower-guesser test. 2 people stand in a room. One of them watched a treat get hidden. The other had their back turned and has no idea where it is. Both then point confidently toward a hiding spot. Dogs in these trials reliably followed the pointing of the person who actually saw the treat get hidden, not the person who simply pointed with more confidence. That means dogs aren't just reading gestures. They're tracking who knows what, based on what that person did or didn't witness minutes earlier. That's a sliver of the same mental machinery a 4-year-old child uses to understand that other people can be wrong. Now here's the twist that complicates the whole sneaky dog narrative. Researchers studying play behavior, including biologist Mark Bekoff, have documented something called self-handicapping. When a bigger, stronger dog plays with a smaller or weaker one, it will deliberately bite softer, run slower, and even roll onto its back, a posture it would never offer in a real fight, just to keep the game fair and keep its smaller partner willing to keep playing. So the same animal capable of strategic deception is also capable of voluntarily disadvantaging itself to maintain trust. Dogs aren't wired to lie whenever it's convenient. They appear to be running something closer to a constant, situational calculation. Deceive when there's something to win and no relationship to lose. Play fair when the relationship is the whole point. So what does this all actually add up to? Real lying, the kind that counts in cognitive science, requires understanding that another creature has beliefs that could be false, and then acting to make those beliefs false on purpose. By that definition, dogs aren't lying constantly or compulsively, but in narrow, specific, high-stakes situations, food, fairness, getting away with something, they are absolutely capable of it. Not because they're devious by nature, but because over 15,000 years of living in our houses, reading our faces was the single most useful skill a dog could have. We didn't just domesticate an animal. We accidentally trained a species to become fluent in us. Which brings us back to that dog on the living room floor, doing the look. He's not confessing. He never was. What he's actually doing is something far more impressive than guilt. Reading your face, your tone, your body language in real time, and adjusting his own behavior to manage the outcome before you've even decided how angry you are. That's not a liar. That's a very small, very fast, extremely attentive negotiator. So maybe the real question was never, do dogs know they're lying to you? Maybe it's this, how long have they known exactly how to read you? And how much have you been giving away without realizing it?